Jia, 27, was feeling extremely anxious about being away from her family for the first time in her life. She married a 37-year-old Taiwanese guy she didn't know at all because her husband was a skilled chef. Since Jia had lived her whole life in a small town in China, she knew this Taiwanese guy would fulfill her dreams. Her husband had an issue. He didn't let Jia enter the kitchen and insisted on doing all the chores himself, even fetching water and cooking food. One day, Jia got very angry and couldn't wait for her husband to come home from work. She went to the kitchen, opened the freezer, and what she saw made her heart stop. A severed head of a woman in their home freezer. The Mazu Temple in Taiwan is one of the busiest temples, so crowded that you can't even drop a needle. Despite the hustle and bustle, the temple is famous for its tranquility. Whenever you enter, you'll see people praying quietly. There is no noise, just pure silence. One day, people were worshipping in the temple when suddenly a very sharp and irritating voice grabbed everyone's attention. They turned to see what was happening and saw a woman with disheveled hair and terrified expression rushing towards the temple. Everyone's focus was on her, but she seemed to not see anyone, not even casting a glance at one. With bulging eyes, she entered the temple directly, knelt in front of the statue of the Mazu, and started rambling in a way that no one understood what she was saying. She continued this for 5 minutes as if nothing had happened, then abruptly stood up and went to the police station. At the police station, she repeated the same words she said at the temple, but this time the police understood what she was saying. It turned out that the woman was the temple's janitor who, like every other day, started her work from the men's restroom in the morning. She saw a black garbage bag on the top of the water tank of one of the toilets. She forcefully untied the knot and had been tied to it and opened it, immediately encountering the worst smell she had ever experienced. Hitting the furs, she said she instinctively closed her eyes because the smell was so strong that she felt it would burn her eyes if it entered them. Inside the bag, she found a sweater, took it out, and found another bag layered in the same way until her eyes caught a sword head. A woman with long hair completely covered in salt. It was as if her head had been soaked in brine, like when you leave milk in salt for a long time. The woman described everything she had seen to the police, but they didn't take her seriously because her mental condition seemed unstable. They tried to calm her down and eventually kicked her out from there. Right at that moment, the police phone rings. They pick up and realize it's their colleagues from the police station in another city, a city that's 2.5 hours away. They say, "We received a really weird letter related to your area. If it's related to our area, why was it sent to you?" "We don't know, but if even 1% of what's written in letter is true, then we might have a problem finding the letter's author. Can you please tell me what's written in the letter?" The letter says, "Hello, Mr. Police. There is a body of Chen Guanqing in a black garbage bag in the men's restroom of the Mazo Temple. Please bury it because I can't do it. Thanks on one behalf of a kind man." The police are shocked to hear the letter because it confirms what the temple janitor had said. They quickly get up, grab a few cars, sirens blaring, and head to the temple. They open the restroom and smells fills the air. Not the usual public toilet smell, but the stench of rotting flesh. They move forward and open the bag, finding not only what the janitor had mentioned, but also two other things. A woman's undergarment with a man's DNA on it, and a note with the identity of a Chen Wanting. The police focused all their attention to solving this case. The first thing they had needed to find out was who Chen Wanting was. So they searched his name in the system. They found out that Chen Wanting was a girl who had gone missing 4 months ago in December 2012. Her mother and brother had reported her missing to the police at that time. They asked the neighbors about the address it registered in the system to see if there were any enemies. They ask if they know one thing. They all, without exception, say no. We don't know her. What do you mean you don't know her? She's been living here for years. Come and see her picture. Are you sure you don't know her? Oh, that's the girl you're talking about. We do know her, but we didn't call her by the name you mentioned. Everyone calls her Darling Little One. The police say, great, if you have a nickname for her, then you must be very close to her. Can you give us some information about her life? The neighbor says, no, we're not close to her at all. The reason we call her that is because God bless her. She had a bit of a mental problem. Our hearts went out to her. The police say, what do you mean? In the bill filed out by her mother and brother, there are no indications of any mental issues. We know mental problems don't have to be crazy, but she certainly wasn't a normal person. Different men were coming and going from her apartment, and from the sounds we heard, it was clear she was being taken advantage of. Now, we don't want to talk behind her back, but chances are darling little one was involved in sex work because sometimes she would follow a man coming out of their apartment into the hallway and demand money from him. The police say, let me see. Did she live alone or with her brother? She lived with her brother, not alone. Poor thing. She goes to work in the morning and in the afternoon. She takes care of her mentally unstable sister. Lately, her husband has left her because of his sister's behavior, adding more problems to her plate. Wang Ting was the fourth child in a family of eight, extremely poor. Her parents worked hard from morning till night, but their income never met the needs of eight people. When Wang Ting was a teenager, her father died due to excessive drinking and liver problems. Her mother had to work twice as hard, meaning Wang Ting and actually her siblings practically raised themselves. Nobody was looking out for them. Since childhood, she was surrounded by people who wanted to take advantage of her. They say she was so beautiful that everyone in school was in love with her. She started dating a drug addicted boy, thinking drug use was cool. She began skipping school, getting involved in drugs and alcohol to the point where her school found out and expelled her. At 18, she decided to get married because it seemed like a magic had happened, and she couldn't see anything else in the world. Her family told her not to because she was only 18. This marriage was a mistake, with a lot of pressure. They married a boy who was also 18 years old. One thing gets pregnant in the first months, but a problem arises. That is, in Taiwan, the law requires all boy to go to military service at 18. The boy, all decked out in his military gear, collects his belongings and leaves. Her husband goes to the military. Wanting gives birth to the child, and after her husband finishes his military service, he sends a letter saying, we're not compatible, and I'm going to pursue my own life. You take care. And this made Wanting mentally unstable. She had gone completely crazy, causing trouble for everyone in the neighborhood. Her mother would send her money, but she wound spend it on all in alcohol and cigarettes. When she ran short on cash, she had to resort to prostitution just to survive. Here, the police concluded that she was likely murdered by one of her clients because, firstly, sex workers are easy targets for killers. And secondly, it was evidence that Wanting's clients were not decent people. After matching the DNA test results, they realized that it was a taxi driver whose house was 2 blocks away from Wanting's, who was arrested in the most gruesome manner possible. They bring him to the police station, and after interrogation and matching the murder time, they see that the taxi driver was out of town at that time. Chen Wanting had changed her name, so no one recognized her, but the killer knew her name. Someone who was very close to her knew about this name change. To get money, she had a theft relationship with her brother. They had to question Chiao, Wanting's brother, because he wasn't home during these investigations from the beginning. After a lot of investigation, they find out that Xiao, Wanting's brother, is a sexual deviant. Neighbors say a few months ago the sound of meat grinder was constantly coming from the apartment. Of course, Chiao, the head chef of a restaurant, wasn't unusual to grind a lot of meat, but he could have killed his brother and ground up the rest of his body. They start sampling everything in Chia's house. DNA one thing's been on the dishes, so his brother. One thing has been cooking, and it's not clear to this day what Chia's done with one thing's body. Xiao not only didn't take care of one thing but was also the one who drove her to petitions. Remember, it turned out that Chia kept all the money for himself, giving Wanting only $20 for alcohol and cigarettes, and then forcing her to sell her body at home to cover her living expenses. After 14 years, it became clear that Wanting, unlike before, wasn't beautiful anymore and couldn't earn enough money. Besides, Xia was 37 years old and wanted to get married. But which girl was willing to come to a house where her sister lived in a dilapidated state? No one wants a man who is sickly. He finds a very beautiful girl named Lucia. Lucia was perfect in every way. Beautiful, educated, and from a good family. She marries Xiao, and at that same time, Xiao was collecting his belongings. He goes and takes out a life insurance policy for Wanting for $150,000, writing his own name as the beneficiary. This means that if Wanting died, this insurance was obligated to pay $150,000. He calmly goes to his sister's house, suffocates her, kills her, and then starts mincing her into pieces. He puts her in the freezer to avoid any smell. Now that Li Zhao had come and found the body, she escapes from the house, and the police go to Li Zhao, who is Chao's wife, and she tells them everything. The police arrest Chiao, and he is sentenced to death for murder of his sister, Chen Wanting. Case closed. If you're into crime stories and documentaries, subscribe to our channel because we'll be posting loads of videos every day.